welcome to Christian Teen Talk. I'm so excited. I just realized I say that every single episode.
It is exciting.
It is so exciting. It's so true, though, because, like, I never thought I'd be doing this right now, and it's crazy because two boys that I never would have thought listened to this podcast stopped me at school and said that they can't wait till the next one.
That's awesome.
So I was like, what? That's crazy. So, I have CJ here today. She is our kids pastor at our church and does so many other things and such a role model for so many teen girls, especially me. Mm-hmm. So, go ahead and say what you want.
Hi, I'm CJ. It's wonderful. It's an honor, actually, that you asked me to be interviewed. This is my first podcast, so I'm a little nervous, but I'm very excited.
I'm glad. Okay, so what were you like in high school?
Oh, Lord. It's going to be funny because I don't know if some of my friends that were in high school answer those questions for me, they'll probably be way off. Or I'm going to be way off. No, I was, okay, let me go back.
Okay.
So you will understand my history. I was always the new kid. So we moved a lot when I was little, all the way up until we got here in 1999. I know
Dang, you're old. No, just
forever ago. But I was in the 4th grade, and we ended up moving again when I was in 6th grade for like 6 months, and then we moved back. So I was always unsettled, always the new girl. I always felt like I had to like catch up with everyone's relationships because they start from kindergarten all the way up, and so it was just always I just felt like I was never good enough. I was always the new kid and everything else. But so fast forward to my senior year. Sorry, my high school years. Cheerleading was what I wanted to be.
I know how that is.
Oh my goodness! Ooh. I remember there's family videos, okay, and my kids think it's hilarious. My brothers use it still to this day as a joke. But when we moved away for the 6 months, my mom had us record a video to send back to the Hoyts, and I don't know why, but I decided I'm going to do a cheer. And so I did a cheer in my room. Anyway, so when we get back, my 6th grade year, I was so excited because 7th grade, I was going to be able to, that coming year, I was going to be able to try out for cheerleading. And so I did try out. We made it back in time so I could try out. I was heartbroken. I did not make it. I tried out again my 8th grade year. Didn't make it. Like I even looked back on some of my journaling that I did, and I'm like, Lord, maybe this is not what you want for me, because you're not, maybe I'm putting this above you and all that.
That hit home. Oh.
So I remember, and now hindsight's 2020. So I'm like, yeah, I was probably, because that was everything I wanted to be. I wanted to be a cheerleader. That's all I wanted to do. So fast forward to my freshman year, I did make the squad, and I cheered all 4 years of high school.
Wow.
And in that, I thought I was kind, and I hope that's what people remember me as, was kind. But I did play a lot of sports. Sports was something that was really big in our family too. I even played on the baseball team my freshman year.
I didn't even know that.
I did.
Because softball wasn't at school yet.
It was not a thing until my junior year. And it was funny because my older brother, Greg, convinced me, and he had all the coaches convincing me to play baseball, so I did my freshman year.
That's pretty cool.
But I did it to see the boys in their uniforms. Because I was boy crazy. My 8th grade year, I started dating one of my older brother's friends. He was a sophomore.
So you were an 8th grader and he was a sophomore.
Sophomore, yes. And that was very, I do not recommend it. I do not recommend it. But I started finding my identity in boys because I always felt less than. I was never the rich girl. I was never the prettiest girl. I was never the fittest girl. So I always, anything that gave me attention, I was like soaking it all in. And so I was boy crazy. I was.
That's what a lot of teenagers struggle with still today, and it might not even be boy crazy, but the guys want the attention too. So then they're crazy about the girls being crazy. And then it just all piles up into a huge drama thing, and it's not good at all.
No, it's not.
And then, like you said, you're finding your identity in those things. People start to find their identity in that instead of what they should be finding in God.
Yes. And during this time, church back then was Sunday mornings, Sunday nights, and Wednesdays. So every time the doors were open, unless we were out of town visiting family, we were there. And so even having the structure and the foundation of what Jesus tells us, that who we are in Christ, and building our relationship or building our life on the rock, still it was hard to live out. And it's so hard to live out. And so that's, I struggled big time.
A lot of people struggle, and they make it seem like they're all alone too, because that's what the enemy, the devil, wants us to think, is that we're all alone. I'm the only one who's confiding or trying to find my identity in this boy, and that's the only person that cares about me, and so on. But that's not really true. So many other people struggle with that.
Yeah. And
that's one reason for this podcast too, because I want to be open about, like, even so many years ago, the same situations were happening.
Yes, and not just with boys, like just wanting to be part of the cool club.
Right.
And the cool club while you're in school is the rebellion. Like, it's not cool to obey your parents and, do everything you're supposed to do, so that is so easily like, oh, well, they're having fun, they're out here smoking, they're out here drinking. And so I will tell you, I was in 8th grade and I started smoking. It was not regularly, but all my friends had older siblings that had access to those things, and I thought I was cool. I will never forget sitting we would go do it at their house, of course, because it was not allowed at my house. And I remember just standing outside thinking, and people would drive by, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm so cool, And I thank God for godly friends, even in middle school, that Erica told on me. And it got back to, it started in our school, and it got back to Teresa. And then Teresa tells my mom, and I'll never forget this. Okay, this is how crazy it is. And I probably will be this crazy mom too. My mom comes and gets me out of class I'll never forget, science class, Miss Roundtree's class.
And they're like, she knows the name and everything.
Yeah, I'll never forget it. They're like, Carolyn, your mom's here to pick you up. And I'm like, what? This is weird. It was a random time of the day. And so I bebop out, like, yeah, I'm going to go home or whatever. And she was so, like, I could see the mad. And my mom's not normally like that. I was like, what? We get in her little car, and she starts laying into me. What are you doing? We drove all around San Saba, okay? Her lecturing me, why would you smoke? I felt like it went on half the day. And so anyway, that's what I love, is because your friends know what's best for you, that are living a godly life.
I like that you said that are living a godly life.
They know.
And that's so hard to find in San Saba too, because like it feels like everyone is not living a godly life.
Yeah, even the people that go to church. I mean, the teenagers that go on Wednesday nights and they go with their parents on Sundays. They don't, and it's very rare, very, very rare for people to actually live their faith out loud, wholeheartily in high school.
Yeah.
And so I want to commend you.
No.
All the little girls and some boys. I'm just not around a lot of the boys that do uphold. I'm not gonna stand for that. I'm not gonna go do those things, even though it looks fun and exciting.
Yeah, it seems like the grass is always greener on the other side.
It's not.
But it's not.
No, it's not. Oh my gosh. The party, I went to parties, because I always had older friends too, because we have open campus, and so I wasn't gonna walk to Dairy Mart every day, and so I was like, go with the older people, and so I would get invited to parties, and at first I was very timid and I would not drink anything. But by my senior year, my mom and dad had moved away. And so I was 17.
Didn't want to move your senior year.
I wasn't going to move. And so I was free. And I stopped going to youth group. I can't remember after my parents leaving me ever attending church in that time frame. And so I was living for me. And I went to a party. And I remember I had flashbacks of where, boys were trying to do stuff with me. And I know it was God protecting me. And I had friends. I was dating my kid's husband at the time. He wasn't there. And I had friends calling him like, that you need to come get her because it's bad. And I didn't know until, the next morning how bad it was. But I was not able to drive. But for some reason, I allowed my friends that were drinking to take my car. One friend drove me to my boyfriend's house. The other one dropped my car off. Well, they were drinking too. Okay, it was insane. Like, no one should have been driving. But God protected me in those moments because He knew I had a purpose, but I was not living out my purpose right then and there. But anyway, and I don't want to go into gory detail of what happened next, but it was not pretty.
Well, yeah. Well, that is.
Don't judge me, Jaylee.
I'm not judging.
There's no judgment.
But that always goes back to comparison too.
Yes.
And comparison is so real. I struggle with it daily. And it doesn't make you less of a perfect person if you compare yourself to someone else. Does that make sense? Because sometimes comparison can also lead to shame, and it's like now I'm feeling shame that I'm comparing myself to her or to him, or I'm trying to make it for both boys and girls. But at the same time, the Bible doesn't approve of comparison. And I always thought, I found that out when I was studying for what you wanted to talk about. I thought that there's a Bible scripture that says comparison is a thief of joy. That was Theodore Roosevelt that said that. I was like, I felt so stupid. I've been lied to for 10 years.
But there's truth in that.
Yeah.
There is truth in that, even though it's not truth from the Bible, that there is truth in that. Comparison, from a young age, I looked at myself because, I wasn't the cutest little, there's pictures. My mom cut my hair like a boy all the time. And there's just so many different things, and I would compare myself to everyone, even into my adulthood, where I'm not as skinny as her, I'm not this, I'm not that, I can't do this, I can't do that. Comparison steals your joy and eats away at you because you forget what God has given you, not Jaylee, but what He has given me. And so when we reverse and you know what? I'm a pretty cool girl. I'm kind, I'm loving, I'm caring. I have all these other things that other people might see in me and wish they had. So it's one of those. It's an ugly thing that goes back and forth.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's constantly okay, I'm not as smart as this girl, I'm not as pretty as this girl. And for guys, it could be, I don't run as fast as this one, I don't lift as much as this one, my hair is not as curly as this one.
Their girls don't look at me.
Yeah, things like this one gets all the attention, but I don't get anything. He has more, that exact thing. And it's always back and forth. And they always think we always think we're alone too. But we're never alone because someone's caught up in that same comparison thing, and someone just I feel like someone has to be open about it so that comparison breaks.
Oh, yes. The Bible in the story of Joseph, and he had 12 brothers, or is he 11? I can't think. I'm sorry.
There's a lot of brothers.
A lot of brothers. But he was the son to Jacob and Rachel. If you don't know the history to it, it's in Genesis. And
it's Genesis 37.
Yes, and Rachel was the one that Jacob wanted. She was beautiful. I'm assuming she smelled good, looked good, everything else, and he got his eye on her, and he wanted her. But Rachel's dad was like, you can't have her unless you marry my daughter Leah. Well, he wasn't very happy about that, but the Bible doesn't, I guess, I don't know if it really says what she looked like or whatever, but he had his eye on Rachel, but he had to marry
the
Leah.
Sister. Yeah.
So there's already comparison right there alone. He was, he didn't want, that. But anyway, so him and Leah had all these other kids, and then him and Rachel finally had Joseph. And
because he was finally able to marry.
Yes. After 7 years of having to work for her dad.
Yeah.
And so he finally...
First of all, that's commitment. I can't even find... I have a boyfriend, so I can't be talking, but I can't find
my husband, Joseph, better be working for 7 years to court me.
That's what I was saying. It's almost like, have you heard of that thing? Oh my goodness. If he doesn't cry as he's walking down the aisle, he better turn back around.
Yep.
Done. But yeah, like... Okay, sorry, keep going.
So from the get-go, not that Jacob didn't love his other sons.
Right.
But Joseph was the son that that he had with the love of his life, okay? So he was the perfect one, the chosen one. He doted on him, and that's the coat of many colors and all this. And so Joseph's brothers, I cannot imagine, like, if
Joseph was also gifted too, and he lived in he knew what his spiritual gifting was. It was dreaming, and he would always have the craziest dreams. And some of them were against his brothers too.
Yes.
One of them was like talking about his brothers bowing down to him, and they already are comparing themselves. His brothers are comparing themselves to Joseph, and he's like, "Yeah, you're gonna bow down to me one day."
It's like the spoiled little brother.
Yeah.
Who do you think you are? But he did. He had multiple dreams, and like it was about his brothers, and he would say, "One day you'll be bowing down to me," and they're like, well, "Hold up, little boy! Like don't be saying that." And so they already had that comparison and the resentment, and then it just turned into complete a mess.
Yep. And I went to in Genesis 37 it goes, I wanted to start in 17, but it goes all the way, we'll stop at 28, just kind of like a recap of that area. It was, so what was his dad's name?
Jacob, but it then turned into Israel.
Oh, that's what, okay,
yes,
I get confused.
Yes.
Okay, so his dad, Jacob, sent Joseph, was like, "Okay, Joseph, go find your brothers out in the field and go get them." I don't know why he wanted them for.
I couldn't remember.
Yeah, but he was like, "Go get your brothers and bring them back to me." Well, the journey was kind of long. I mean, they were out in their pasture doing something with their animals.
I think he wanted, if I'm not mistaken, which I don't want to not say what the Bible says, but I think the dad wanted him to check on him. So Israel wanted Joseph to go check on them.
Yeah, they were like, it says they were grazing their father's flocks.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was like, "Yeah, go check on our flocks," or something.
Yes. And, yeah.
Yeah. So then, as Joseph was walking up to, or like heading out to his brothers saw him in a distance, and they started plotting how they wanted to kill him. Because they wanted, their comparison, they were stuck in like, he's better this and that so much that they hated him. And it wasn't anything that, it wasn't Joseph's fault. I'm sure from the dreams and everything, he was totally acting like...
It's kind of like rubbing it, I don't want to put that, but it's kind of like rubbing it in.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, some might take it as pride, like he was prideful, but he knew who he was.
Yeah.
And so, just because people live a certain way, like, I am chosen by God, so I'm not gonna go to those parties. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do this. I know who I am in Christ, and so I'm not gonna do anything that disrupts that. Just because they do that doesn't mean they're prideful. It means I know who I am, and I'm not gonna mess with God's calling on my life.
Yeah, and it's not like, okay, I would say I'm definitely that, like, I'm not like distancing myself or putting myself above, just like Joseph, but definitely like we had boundaries and standards. And I'm not saying people don't, because the peer pressure is still there. Like, it's so hard. But that's when your relationship with Jesus comes in. It's if you're if you're pressing into Jesus and he's pressing back into you, because he's always right there. We just gotta press into him too. Then you're like, how do I say it? The need or want for sin lessens too. The closer you get to him, the more sin decreases too. And so the farther you are, the more sin can take.
Right. Because the only thing that separates you from God is sin. So once you get closer to God, you're
right.
And the sin, I mean, the peer pressure is still going to be there. The temptation is still going to be there,
right.
But you're gonna have your focus on God. And I listened to something today, and I can't remember who said it, but they said that if you do not conform, you're going to be hated. So, I mean, as Christians, I mean, if you're walking the walk and talking the talk, you are going to be hated. You're not going to be liked by everyone. And I was the one that wanted to be liked by everyone. Like, I just want to, I'm kind of...
I still struggle with that.
Yeah.
Like, people even are like, oh, Jaylee, people pleaser. Well, I'm trying, but I don't want to be a people pleaser.
And I think it's okay to a certain extent.
Right. But when it becomes like your idol.
Yourself. Yes, you gotta protect yourself in those moments too. But
right.
Yeah.
So that was good. And then there's also that scripture, like, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. And that one's really good too, because it's all a mind game. It's all what we think. And I'm sure it might not even show unless you're like starting to let comparison be the thief of joy. Then that definitely shows, because you're down, you're out. I can tell you that was me this week. Like,
me too.
It has been a week.
Today I took a nap during lunch, and I was like, I had lunch with Pagan and Dynasty, and when I got back, I was like, I just felt in a rut, and I don't know, it was weird, and I'm like, Lord, it's only Thursday, and I guess it's the gloom of winter.
Yeah, it's like
I don't like
misty, and I don't know. But there's something about the weather. But also, it's just, I can't even explain it. But Joseph's brothers were definitely comparing themselves really bad. And so much so that they wanted to kill him. And they were plotting his kill. And then his brother, one of his brothers, Reuben, I don't know how to say his name, but yeah. Reuben, okay. He was like, he also felt for his brother, but he was still hatred too. So he was like, okay, well, we're not going to get anything out of killing him. So let's just sell him, or like hide him instead.
Yeah. You know who he reminds me of?
Who?
The closet Christians.
The hidden Christian.
Yes, the one's like, oh.
That's so funny.
God's not gonna like that.
Because like when people come out of the closet, but like the closet Christian.
That didn't cover me because but anyway, but like that's because he was on the fence, because the ones that straddle the fence. That's
right. And we talked about in the first episode the camo Christians too. It's all the same, all hidden and worldly things too.
And so he reminds me of that, where he didn't want to see his brother get killed, and but he was listening to all of his other brothers saying one thing, so it was like a tug of war, but he settled for the lesser of the two evils, I guess.
And okay, this is a God thing, because I did not have this written down in my notes, but Jesus also says, blessed are you when people persecute you. And they were literally persecuting their own brother and trying to kill him. And
flesh and blood. I mean,
I know. And then they were like, well, let's just sell him. But then Joseph's story becomes so great, because what is he? Either king or...
So he became so he helped stockpile all the famine was coming. Was coming. They started preparing and stockpiling all this because of his dreams. Right. And anyway, and so Potiphar, he worked for Potiphar, and he was like this, I don't know, head macho man of that.
Yeah, he wasn't king, but he was some government something.
Yes, and I knew that, and that just slipped my mind what he is. There's a name for it, but anyway, so he was high up there, and his family, his dad thought he was dead, And but anyway, so his family actually went to where he was, and because they were in the famine and they didn't have any food, and so he spotted them coming. And I mean, at first he was like, "Oh heck no," you know, but then he had mercy on them. Oh man, to be like for his own flesh and blood to do what they did, and
let's sell him,
but knew that they wanted to kill him. They put him in a pit,
right?
But, and anyway, and so to even like show mercy on them of like, you know what, here, take this back and took the food, and he's like, but I'm not gonna give you anything until you bring my father. But anyway, so
right.
The mercy that he showed them when he could have been turned his back on them, but he didn't.
That's so hard. I don't even think I could have. I don't know.
But think of Thomas and Caleb coming back to you, and they're beaten down, and like, Jaylee, I know we did you wrong.
That's
I think
true.
You have
I probably would.
You would.
If it was, them.
But your flesh would be like, no, this is, I mean, that would be a God thing with Joseph.
Yeah.
And so this with us, it would have to be a God thing for us to forgive people that mistreat us.
And I think it's so funny because, or not funny, because the tables turned. Like, they saw Joseph walking towards them in the field, and then Joseph saw them walking towards him. And it also goes back to how, like, the hidden, like, the closet Christians and stuff, because, I had a point. Like, they were like, it's who they were with in that moment, if that. So like all the brothers were together, and then Joseph was coming. So then that group wasn't a good group, and so some of us choose wrong groups to be in, and bad circumstances come out of those groups we choose to be in. But then Joseph was not in a group. I'm not saying we can't be in groups, but we got to be in the right group.
Yes, and I can tell you, right now, y'all think that this is because it is your world right now. Like, high school is everything, like, you know, everything to you right now because you're in it.
Right.
But, I mean, I'm going to be out for a while. I graduated in 2007, and
that was 17 years ago.
It's crazy. But anyway, it feels like yesterday, to be honest with you, but I can tell you the number, I can probably count the number of fingers on my, I can't even count. Sorry, I can't even talk right now. I can count the people on one hand who I still talk to from high school.
So we think our whole big groups, the more people we have, the more people that like us are important, but really, they're not going to matter when life gets going and we start getting jobs and all go our separate ways.
Mm-hmm. And I can tell you right now, and I pray, Lord, me saying this is not going to offend anyone, but the most popular boys, the girls did well, you know, some of them.
Yeah.
The most popular boys that were like big shots and stuff, I can name a couple that were in jail. So it's one of those things that I wanted so to be a part of this clique, where God's like, no, I'm calling you into a bigger and better thing, and they're choosing a life that's not pleasing to me, and so those people were removed to protect my calling. And I mean, I still messed up, and I messed up a lot of times, but anyway, God protects us.
Right.
But just know that I want to let y'all know that this is not the end all. I mean, you have a life even after high school, and so be kind and loving, and hold on to those true friends that have your back no matter what, though.
Right. So, I think of a snowflake. I just taught my Sunday school kids this.
Oh, yes.
And I learned something from it too, because snowflakes, no one snowflake's the same. They're all different. And so we all try to be the same, like hidden in a group and clique, when really we're all meant to be different for a purpose. And so yeah, snowflakes are all unique, and if God made so much time to make that snowflake unique, how much more did he make you unique? And in Genesis, I think it's 1:27, about how God created man in his own image. And it's like, well, man, that's a huge group. Well, God created you, man, and you, woman, for who you are meant to be.
Yes.
So you are uniquely made, and never compare. I mean, I can't say never compare, because that's so hard to, like, I don't think you can't not compare.
I mean, I think the only one that didn't was Jesus Christ.
Right.
I mean, we are called to be like him, but we live in a fallen world that is so hard to get in our flesh, and that's part of our flesh is comparing. And
right.
So yeah.
And like I kind of said it earlier, but I'm looking back over my notes. I'm gonna say comparison can lead to distractions. Distractions lead to us finding our identity in something else, whether that is sports, relationships, etc. So now I want to talk about relationships. And I love your testimony so much, even though I can't relate to it really.
You can't.
I can't.
I thank God that you can't.
Right, but many others can, and whether it's that they've experienced themselves with their own relationships or their parents have. Because a lot of kids are living in a one-parent home or divorced homes. So we just want to hear your testimony on that.
Relationships. I can tell you the longest I have been without a relationship since I was in 8th grade was probably 7 months.
So
that is insane.
8th grade.
Okay, since 8th grade. So 8th grade, like I told you earlier, I was dating a sophomore in high school, which that is a big no. I know it's just a number.
Kids still do it.
They do, but for me back then, if you were a strong person like you, then it's probably a-okay. But for me, I was so broken. I came from I don't want to say broken home. I came from a divorced family, and I had a stepdad that helped raise us and put us into church and everything. And but we started, since we got church, we had this foundation of, there's a standard. No sex before marriage.
Yeah.
And all of that, and I had family members that were
even putting yourself in the relation or in the in the position for that stuff is what I meant. Even like being in a room alone or anything like that, just stay away.
Stay away, because the temptations there. I mean, I'm gonna say this. I'm sorry for anyone listening, but God made sex to be a good thing. And so it's natural for us to want it, but there's a reason why it's for marriage. But so when I was in 8th grade, I started dating him. I just doted over him. He was everything to me. But then I got into high school, and it stopped. We ended up breaking up for, I don't even know, it's high school stuff. And then I had another guy show interest in me shortly after that, and so I started dating him. Note this: these are serious relationships that I used to pray to God, Lord, please let me marry him, let him be. And then I'm like, thank God now for unanswered prayers.
I can't relate to like serious relationships, but even like talking stages or like liking someone, I can look back at my notes from like 6th or 5th grade and be like, dude, Jesus, this is the one. Yes. I know it.
And it's funny, and they might be, but they might not, and God knows all. But so those 2 relationships were really serious. I can tell you that I did everything but had sex with those 2 individuals. And because I was afraid I was going to get pregnant. I had family members in my, that were really close to me that got pregnant when we were in middle school.
Oh, and my goodness.
It was always my fear, like, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to get pregnant. And then I had, but it was I don't want to get pregnant, but then also I have this covenant with God, which it should have been, I have this covenant with God.
Therefore, I'm not
going to do this. But twisted mindset as a teenager. Anyway, I pushed the limit, and so my 8th grade year, I actually lived down the street from that boyfriend, and every morning I would get up really early, and I would go down to his house to wake him up, and his mom was fine with it and just let me ride in or whatever, and push the envelope every morning I could.
Push the
envelope.
That's
And one day,
that's such an old thing.
Oh, you're calling me old.
I'm sorry.
No, I was kidding.
Push.
But one I will never forget. I guess my mom like caught on to me, and there was a knock on the door after I already got to his house, and note, he was in his underwear, okay, and
pushing the
I'm
envelope.
telling you, I was pushing it at every cost, and my mom, oh my gosh, I would have beat me, but
I
was
would
like,
be.
just get up, get up there. I'm like, what? Okay, I was just waking him up, like innocent mom, whatever, and so it's so bad. Don't look at me any different, okay? But shortly after that, I don't know what they thought. Maybe I convinced them that I wasn't going to do anything. I don't know. But my parents ended up going out of town and left me and my brothers home. But my sister, I call her my sister, Erica.
Yeah, best friend.
She was spending the night with me during that weekend, I guess. And, I almost said his name. My then boyfriend started, he was one of my brother's friends, and so he was up there hanging out all day. Well, he never left. And he ended up staying the night that weekend. And thank God that Erica was in the room, like, not letting anything happen, okay?
She was like, nope, I'm here.
And thank God that Erica goes home on Sunday and tells her mom. And
I would have left Erica as my best friend at that point because
I was mad at her.
She's told on you so many times.
And you know what, Erica? I never told on you. I was kidding. No, I'm just kidding.
Funny.
No, I'm just kidding. But thank God for her, though. Thank God, because there was no telling what would have happened. And anyway, so we, my parents found out I was grounded for life, apparently. Had to quit my job at Dairy Mart. Like, my stepdad called and quit for me. I had to go everywhere where they went, and of course, like, they could not trust me because I had that temptation. Like, that's all I wanted.
At that time, do you recall like feeling shameful or anything?
Oh,
like,
yes.
have you felt? Okay.
Oh yes, I was like
did
filled
you?
with shame because that's not even then. Even when I was doing those things, I knew that it wasn't right in God's eyes.
Right.
But there was a draw, like, oh, someone's showing me attention. Like, he's an older man, a boy. But
he's my brother's age.
Yeah, like, so cool, whatever. And then even with my second serious boyfriend, like, we pushed the envelope. Went to his house. We would go take naps. Okay, by his parents. And I'm like, Lord,
so
have
many
mercy.
people that's okay with, and people are like, I got asked yesterday, Jaylee, what do you do with your boyfriend? And I was like, go to Sonic, be big bags, talk and hang out. What do you mean? What do I do?
Not doing adult things.
Go to Mill Pond and swing all the swings, watch movies. Like, how is that boring?
It's not. And what's funny is when Joseph and I started dating, we would go to the park and I would swing. Just because,
Joseph is y'all started dating when you were like, how old?
Me and Joseph?
Yeah.
How old were we?
30.
Okay, I'm 35 now. Oh no, I'm not. I'm 36. Oh my God. I'm sorry. I'm 36. So it was 4 years ago. So
32. 30? Oh my gosh, where did I get 32 from?
Somewhere around there. Anyway, I was older. But yeah, so it's funny that you say that because that was one of the, like, I was like, just let's go to the park and
also
swing.
I love that. I don't know how I got this, but childlike faith too. Like, even when we're always like, it's like, what's your next thing? We're already having to write our resumes as a sophomore in high school. And they're like, okay, what are you doing for college? Start looking at colleges, start getting their emails, start emailing them, things like that. And I'm like, why would I want to blow up colleges with a sophomore? Like, they have their own problems. But anyways, going back to like having a childlike faith, just to be able to do childlike things. Like, we're always, like, wanting the next grown-up thing.
Mm-hmm.
And
do not grow up too fast, because that's what I did. Like I told y'all earlier, my parents moved away my start to my senior year. I was still 17, and they left, and I was like, I'm not going. And my brother Aaron, he was a junior, and he's like, I'm not going. We were like, if Bea and Payne told me that, I'd be like, no, you're getting in the car, we're leaving. But I guess we're very strong-willed, and my mom was like, whatever. I really don't know. But anyway, we stayed back, and because we moved a lot, so we were finally settled. Finally, we're in what we felt like was where we were supposed to be and having fun and everything. Well, me and my kid's dad started dating, and this is gonna blow your socks off. But he was 20 and I was 17. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
I know. What were my parents thinking? But he was, once again, he was a college student. I was a senior in high school, and so that, nothing against him, because I had the choice.
Right.
But I remember, I still had my innocence to an extent, as I was still a virgin, and I was really happy about that, because in my family,
almost made it through high school.
Yeah, what's crazy is in my family, that's abnormal. And that is sad, but that's the truth. And so I was really excited, I held on to that.
Mm-hmm.
And when I turned 18,
to where it's legal. She waited till she was 18.
So the cops can't go get him, okay? I'm just kidding. But I was 18 years old, and I will never, you never forget it.
Mm-hmm.
I gave him.
And that's the thing that you just said, you never forget it.
You never.
So teenagers,
you never forget it.
Think, okay, this is what I want right now. He's going to be my forever, so it doesn't matter. Or vice versa. She's going to be my forever, so it doesn't matter. But it really does matter, because what if you don't even know what's going to happen? Only God knows what's going to happen and who's the right one for you. And why would you want God's plan B or C for you when you could have God's plan A?
Yes, right. If I would have got that, in my knower,
Mm-hmm.
I would have protected myself. Not that he didn't. I chose it too. But if the circumstances were different and I was stronger, then I would have said, I'm sorry, I'm waiting until I'm married, until you put a ring on it. And so the thing about it is, and nothing against him, but I gave it up. And so once he had the cake, and he got to eat it too, because shortly after that,
so many okay, I have to explain. He got her, and he got her.
Yes, sorry. Use your language, and I'll use mine. So
translate.
Have you seen those translator earphones for Spanish or for any language? So we might need those for Gen Z and.
I don't even know what you are.
I don't know either.
What? I don't.
Anyway, it doesn't matter because I'm not that old. Okay. Anyway, so.
Millennials. I don't know.
I'm like the younger or older. I don't know. Ones of those. But anyway, so I did do that, and shortly after that, I ended up moving in with him because I was spending the night every night at his house. Well, it was with his dad and stepmom, and it was crazy because even his dad's like, she should just move in, and I'm like, no, and I'm like, finally I was like, okay, I will, and so I did. So I was living as a married woman, as if I was married, with a man that we're not married, and we lived with his dad until I graduated. I think we left to San Antonio to the winter of 2008, and
That was the year I was born.
That's crazy. Yeah. So it was probably around the time you were born, actually. Is when I left. We moved because we were up there. We moved to San Antonio so he could go back to school, and I was gonna go to be a massage therapist, and then eventually, because I wanted to be a chiropractor, and I have this big.
Why aren't you? I need you.
The reason why I'm not is because I chose other things, and so I was like, so I downplayed it. Well, I'm gonna go to get my massage therapy license because there's not a chiropractic school in San Antonio. I would go do this, and then once I get that done, then I can go. When John gets his stuff done, then I'll go and do what I want to do after that. Well, 4 years into our relationship, still not married. So every holiday, around my birthday, around Valentine's Day, I would always be let down because I was expecting a ring. Okay, never got one until I discovered I was 4 months pregnant with our first child. And then the ring came. But
there's always that feeling, like, is it because...
Yes, and that still to this day, no, nothing against him. I mean, it was just the way our lives worked out.
And now it's a great testimony, though.
Yes. We go through things to help other people and to help stray other people down the right path. I mean, a lot of heartache in those 4 years. So from the very beginning, I was like, even if he didn't express it to me, I was not good enough for him to marry until I was pregnant. Isn't that crazy? So it goes back to the comparison and I'm not good enough, I'm this, I'm that. Anyway, and so I ended up being with him for 13 years. Got 3 beautiful babies out of it. Will not change that because they're my world. But
yeah,
we soon divorced in 2019, and my world was rocked. Because I still held on to at least I had sex with a man that I eventually married, even though I had a child out of wedlock. But I eventually married him. I'm still okay. I'm still covered underneath that, right? And I had this hope that my kids were not going to be from a broken home. And so I wrestled with it. I mean, you saw it firsthand.
Yeah.
The struggle that I had with all that, where I was already a children's pastor at this time. My husband, let me go backwards. He was not attending church regularly. It was like he would not go. I mean, flat out would not go.
And that goes with the unequally yoked relationships too. And people like yoked, like eggs. Well, no. But like, find someone that you can both share the love of Christ with, and y'all both put Christ first. Yes. And I think of it like a triangle. I don't know how, but like, you're here, and then he's here, and if you're both, y'all far apart, but y'all can get closer the more y'all get closer with Jesus.
If you have a relationship with Jesus by yourself, and then y'all come together, oh my goodness, it's what God designed.
Right.
But it was constantly pull here, pull there, pull here. Like, I was constantly being torn. Like, this is how I want to live. This is how I'm going to raise my kids. This is how he's not coming. God gives us free will. And he wasn't coming, and nothing, I mean, he believes in God and everything, but he's not going to be forced to go to church. So it was just struggle. We were good friends, but together, I mean, marriage-wise, not a good husband and wife. I was a terrible wife to him, probably, and he was a terrible husband to me. And it's because God was not the center.
Right.
So if God's not the center of your current relationship, even if you're not married, that's very important. Even when you're dating, God should be the center from the start. And another thing, so I was already a children's pastor, so I was going to be a divorced lady. And I remember calling your GP and your Nana, and I'm like, and so I went over there and they ministered to me. I'm like, we're getting divorced. I don't know, am I going to lose my position? And I'll never forget your GP was like, no, this is your calling. No. And I thank God for our church that are so, like, most churches, most religions would like, sorry, you're out, you're divorced. But they love me through that. And they believe for me a husband that, and prayed with me for a husband that would walk beside me in this relationship with God. And so when I started dating, I know some of our church members were probably like, CJ, what are you doing? But when I started dating Joseph, from our very first conversation, and this should be
I'm gonna be so
everyone's
honest,
first
I thought he was so weird.
Poor Joseph. He's probably
Okay, I know.
I'm just kidding.
Hi, Joseph. I love you now. I love you now that you're coming out of your shell. But first, I was like, CJ, you are so extroverted. Like, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, hi, I'm Joseph. And I'm like,
he
hi,
came a long way.
Joseph. Yeah.
And so, and it's funny because people were like, because at the time, I will be honest with you, I was falling back into I'm just going to date whoever shows me attention. But I was very upfront because he was a Catholic, not practicing because he wasn't going to church, but he was like, yeah, I'm Catholic, I know God, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, there's in our first conversation, because I was like, whoever I date, he's gonna know that God's gonna come first no matter what. And then of course my kids are gonna, they're up there. And so
they're up there.
And so we had a long conversation. It was funny because we waited till all his son, which is my son now, Levi was asleep, and then we waited till the other kids were asleep, and we talked on the phone because we didn't want them to be included yet.
Right.
And so anyway, so I was up front. I'm like, this is a big part of my life, and if it's not what you want a part of your life, then
this ain't gonna work.
We're not gonna work. And so he was like, this is funny, you're gonna laugh at this. He's like, as long as it's not one of those churches.
We're one of those churches.
that people get pushed down. and I was like, my heart sank. I was like, well, that's kind of the church that I go to. He's like,
we're not Pentecost, but we push it a little bit. we're pretty close.
We're there, And so I was like, okay, this is not happening because he's already laying down his stuff. So I was like, well, it is. And he goes, okay, well, I guess I can try it. And so we eased into it because during that time it was COVID, so we were having parking lot church. And so
that's a good way to ease into it when you're stuck in your car and not in the sanctuary.
God had this ordained, I'm sure, because anyway, but he has been walking beside me ever since. And so I did tell him, I said, before I marry you, I want you to know my God. Our God.
There's a difference between believing and knowing.
And I go, I want you to know. And so, and I also said, I'm not gonna marry you until you do that and go on the man's walk. And so he was like, okay. And Sam helped me with that. And Sam got him to a man's walk. And I will never forget when he came back, he looked me dead in my eyes and he goes, I understand. And I'm like, thank you, God. Like, he understands, like, there is so much power and God has so much more, and he blesses you more. And I see it now where the way my life went two different ways. And then it kind of, like, came to, like, whew, I can breathe.
Right.
Because I'm living the life that God has called me to live with. We're not a broken family. We're a blessed family.
Right.
The marriage I was in before was broken. And so it's just a beautiful way where God will restore and redeem everything that the enemy has taken away.
And Joseph has his own story too.
Oh.
So the fact that I've heard his testimony before too.
You might have to get him on the podcast.
True.
It's bad. It's bad.
I'll have to get you back and y'all both do it together and talk about how y'all's aligns, because it's
crazy.
like how y'all come together just to like completely different personalities and different situations and everything too. But Proverbs 14:30 says, "A heart at peace gives life to the body, but envy rots the bones." So you can't, even though y'all come from, people say, broken houses, y'all can't have, I'm so glad that y'all don't have envy towards y'all's past.
So can I tell you, can I get
completely honest?
It's a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and it's funny because I feel like we're teenagers again. You know, why did you have a girlfriend before me? And he's like, why did you get married before me? And so it's one of those things that we it's a struggle, because I'm like, and not that we want to take away from because our kids are what came out of those relationships. Mm-hmm. So we never want to downsize those relationships, because we got our greatest blessings out of those relationships. But I'm like, man, mm-hmm. why couldn't we have met sooner? Man, why can't you have loved me sooner? And then I would have been broken like I had been. And then I'm like, you were going and doing whatever you wanted, living for the devil. And that's why God wasn't ready for us to meet yet. And he's like, well, you were married, so how is that going to work? Like, oh, I get it. But anyway, so we still struggle, because he gave himself away. I'm not going to say the number, but to a lot of women. And it hurts me. Even it's silly to say.
Especially, that's why people are always like, why is it so important to wait till marriage? Well, because it hurts your spouse that you know you want to live with for the rest of your life. I know I'm just a 60-year-old teenager, and you're like, how do you know? Well, I've seen relationships and my own aunts and you, and just so many things that happen that it's a comparison thing.
Mm-hmm. So even I don't know half these women.
Oh, that's loud.
But it still hurts me. And
right.
I'm like, well, it feels like whoever I'm like, did you ever do, like, were you ever with her? Like, it's one of those things that's a mind game that the devil plays, because comparison is the devil. Mm-hmm. And so it's constantly, like, I don't want to say constantly, because it's not brought up all the time, but when I'm in my feels and it's that time of the month, it's like, why? He's like, well, I'm sorry. I'm like, and he goes, well, I can say the same thing about you. Yeah. You gave yourself away too. And I go, but we got kids out of it. He's like, and so it always goes back to that, but it still hurts. Even though we're adults, and I'm in my second marriage, and he's in his first, but he had multiple relationships before me, and it still hurts us knowing that, because in the I heard it somewhere where when you have sex with someone, you give a piece of you to them. Right. And
it's not just what y'all seen or done, it's what your heart attaches to then, too. It's like, you're like, you know what I'm getting at.
Because it was meant for oneness. Right. And so you are one with these people. If you're one with these people that are not meant to be your forever, you're giving your heart away. And so I wish it was different for me, as far as giving it away before I was married, because I will never forget one of my boss's kids from Dairy Mart. I grew up there. I mean, I worked there until I was a senior. She messaged me on Instant Messenger because I lived in San Antonio, and she's like, "What? You're pregnant?" And I was like, "Yeah." I mean, she was way younger than me. She's like, "But you're not married." And it crushed me, because there's people watching you. There's people that look up to you, and they're wanting you to set the standard, you know? So, man, it's tough out there, though. But I want to say, for those that have had sex outside of marriage, God can restore and can forgive that. Right. But you need to make a covenant between you and God that says, I will no longer do it. I'm not going to give myself away to anyone else, because it's just painful. Right. Once that relationship breaks up.
So we're going to close by saying this. We're the woman at the well, really quick, she has gone from so many relationships, like, and then she's living with a man who's not even her husband. It was like 5 relationships or 5 marriages, and then a man that she's not even living with. And then Jesus goes up to her at the well while she's just getting water, just like we have to drink every single day. And he says, Jesus answered, "Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life." So I pray that y'all have peace after this conversation, and it was really encouraging because you're not alone. Even it can be the smallest comparison to she's better than me, she's prettier, he's more athletic, he's this, he gets the girls, to something that can lead to something so much bigger, but that you could decrease by your starting a relationship with God. So I hope y'all learned something. Have a great rest of y'all day wherever y'all are at, and bless y'all.